Morning. Mark, it's Conte reporting. You know this park I'm always in, right? It's right over that fence is a military base. Alright, so out here there's a lot of war relics right underneath the bridge. It's actually called Cannonball Park. So we're going to talk about the quagmire in Iran. We woke up this morning and we're going to war. Are we? So look at the cannonballs. These are the cannonballs that built this, that won this country's wars. That's a real cannon over there too. It's a big old cannon. Look at that shit. They used to put these, I think they put them on the boat. I think it was part of the boat, or they'd fire these things off the shore and try to sink the ships coming into the New York harbor, fighting off the British in the 1700s, 1600s, whatever it was. This fucking ball. Look at this thing, man. Look at this thing. It's barbaric war. They're throwing giant fucking metal balls at each other trying to sink their ships. Well, right here, the tribute to a little later, the monument to the Dover Patrol. See the monument to the Dover Patrol? It's always here. You see me walking by all the time. I don't talk about it, but it's here. You see what it says. Right? The monument to the Dover Patrol, erected as a tribute to the comradeship and service of the American naval forces in Europe during the World War. And they're referring to World War I. And there's the date over here. You see, it's to the glory of God and an everlasting remembrance of the Dover Patrol, 1914 to 1919. They died that we might live. May we be worthy of their sacrifice. Because that's what war is. Perpetual war. So I got to make a correction. Yesterday I said that a top general a top Iranian general was killed in Iran. I was mistaken. He was killed in Iraqi airport. Okay, in Baghdad. So what? Big deal. Right? It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. It doesn't change the whole story. So Trump bombed the Baghdad airport to kill Qasem Soleimani, right? He's the general, top general in Iran, was killed in an airport in Iraq for alleged war crimes. He's a criminal. He is a war motherfucker. He killed our troops. He killed our brave men in uniform who signed up to fight and die. Like these guys right here. There's a monument that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's dedicated to the memory of those who gave their lives in the Vietnam War. See the squirrel on the fence? There's a squirrel over there. See the squirrel? Hello, squirrel. Squirrel's not going to fight and die for his country. So, it's an act of war. You kill a top military guy. He's in Iraq. He's in his next door neighboring country. What's he doing there? I don't know. Who cares? What business do we have dropping a bomb on his head and killing him and blowing his fucking hand off? And that's how we identified him. With the hand with the ring. It's barbaric, right? It's endless quagmire. It's endless perpetual war. Right? It's crazy, right? Why are we... How does that make us safe? Now you could make the argument, I know you will, that Trump did it because he was protecting our interests there, and that this guy somehow masterminded the arms flow into Iraq that ultimately resulted in killing U.S. troops. Right? But initially he was fighting, the story goes, and the story is not that important really, because at the end of the day, in the final analysis, we don't have any business being there as Americans. We don't. We never did. This is still Bush, 2002. We're in Iraq because Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and engineered 9/11. All lies. We're still there because of lies. So, 20 years later, Mr. Trump, facing re-election to a Democrat who can beat him, Bernie Sanders, is now looking at history. Trump is not stupid. He's looking at history and saying, I really believe this. And you could disagree, but I believe it. Trump is saying, if I could lose this thing, how do I secure power? And if you look historically, you'll see that any sitting president that's at war, active war, not just little bullshit quagmires, but full-blown war, almost always gets reelected. That's just historically true, right? So what's the goal? What was the goal of blowing the guy up? Why blow him up? What good comes out of it? Are we trying to bully him and crush him into oblivion and silence the Iranian people? Oh, but they knocked our drone down down in the Horn of Africa, in the Gulf. Why are we there? Why is our drone there? They blew up the oil fields. Terrorists. Are they terrorists or are they patriotic Iranians fighting for their country? I don't know. When the American people, Americans put on a uniform and go fight abroad, are they brave Americans fighting for democracy and freedom, or are they foreign invaders to the people that they are invading? Terrorists. It really is how you look at it. I tend to look at it as probably, I guess, the Christian way of, don't trespass against others. Forgive those who trespass against us and lead us not into temptation, I guess the prayer is. I'm not a Christian, but I like that. Don't trespass against others, because if you do, then they will trespass back on you, right? So is goal, I guess what, I'll leave it open-ended for you to answer, but was Trump's goal to flex his muscles, kill one guy, make an example out of him, and start a quagmire, another one, start another insurgency war in Iran as 2020 unfolds, the election unfolds, and he looks like a rock star because he's at war. He looks like the big, strong military man. I think it's right out of the Hollywood playbook, For Trump, war with Iran is re-election. That's what it is. So right now in Iran, there's American flags are burning. They're burning the motherfuckers. Right? Red, white, and blue is getting burned. Hi, squirrel. Hello, squirrel. There's another monument over here that doesn't get much play either. I forget what it is. Let's take a look. So it's a boat mast, and there's the American flags up there, you can see. There's the mast. Alright, so it's a boat. I think this is some kind of original mast, or a replica of a mast. Mast is what's on a boat. And you can see the engravements. It's hard to read because there's stuff on top. Honoring John Paul Jones, a father of the U.S. Navy. No, see how we forget? Like all these brave people at the time, it was so important to get a monument up with their name on it. And now, all these years later, a guy like me walks by, I don't even know what it is. I don't know who they are. Are they forgotten? Are they forgotten? Because that's where we're at right now. We're facing another quagmire. Are 2,000, 3,000 Americans going to die, and a 250,000 Iranians going to die? For our stupidity? For our corporate greed? Because that's what it is. Military-industrial complex. They died that we might live. May we be worthy of their sacrifice. They died that we may live. May we be worthy of their sacrifice. They sacrificed all. They died. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about human beings killing each other. Death, perpetual war. It's peaceful right now. Here I am on the ground in New York, in America. The chances of me getting attacked by a foreign entity or a bomb dropping out of the sky and blowing me up is probably slim to none. 0% chance. So why is it hard to understand that people would get a little pissed off when a bomb flies out of the sky and kills one of their top generals in an international airport in Baghdad? And somehow it's justified. And I see what's going on with the right-wing pundits online. A lot of you guys, the Tracy Beans of the world, the frickin' Frankie, or whatever his name is. I don't know who he is. Well, YouTube Satan, Stick, Sex, and Hammer. They're all spinning this shit, saying that somehow Trump is. I think even H.A. Goodman is saying it. I didn't watch his shit, but saying that somehow it's justified. And Trump did the right thing by taking out that's what Trump's supposed to do. He's the commander-in-chief. That somehow it's justified and somehow it's correct. I just don't agree with it. My brain is not wired in that way where you're accusing a general of war crimes. Right? So what happens one day when 20 years from now, Mike Pompeo is on vacation in Baghdad, or he's on vacation somewhere, and he was the Secretary of State, or how about Obama's playing golf somewhere, and down in Africa with the Africans, and somebody takes a bullet, shoots him from a distance and kills him, and to us it's a tragedy, and the loss of an American president. To others, it's killing a war criminal who dropped bombs on Syria, who dropped more bombs in his administration than any other president in the history of America. So many bombs, they ran out of bombs to drop. They had to buy new bombs. So are our leaders war heroes, or are they war criminals? Is George Bush a war criminal for his miscalculation or his lie about 9/11 and the involvement of the Iraqi people? I think the answer is obvious. Of course, they admitted their miscalculation and admitted their lie, but nonetheless, here we are 20 years later. You see how it's a continuation. It's not something new. It's not something that just sprung out of nowhere. It's been going on for years and years and years. Perpetual war. So, what else? So what more could we expect? What could we expect out of this? What should we expect from Trump's aggressive move to take out a guy? And everybody will say, I know people say some of the comments are, Conte, you've never been to the Middle East. and you don't know what the generals know. Why don't you go there and find out, and then you could have a more educated view of what's going on? I say to you, no, that's incorrect. I don't have to get on a plane and understand the intricates of Middle Eastern policy. I know the Middle Eastern policy. Our Middle Eastern policy is perpetual war. Secure the oil fields. Make it safe so U.S. corporations can go in there and do business. The military-industrial complex. That is our policy. Why do I need to understand anything more beyond that? That young men and women die to continue oligarchy, to continue to enrich the billionaire class, not for safety, not for national defense, but for expansion and imperialism, American aggression abroad. We outspend every other country on earth 10-1 for military. 10-1. And we have a 500,000 homeless people in this country. We have 3 million people in prison. Half of the country is living in abject poverty. 70% of the country doesn't have $1,000 to their name. But we have trillions of dollars to spend on perpetual war that doesn't keep us safe. And we're on the brink of it right now. We're on the brink of it right now. An act of war has occurred. And we shall see how it's spun. Is it just for re-election and a power grab to keep the American favorite Bernie Sanders out of office? To me, it's so obvious. I mean, it's just the most obvious thing, right? So, have at it. You know, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it, but I do think that I just wanted to clarify the details and give you my afterthought on what's going on over there. And it's making headlines. It's making news, right? And they'll say, oh, Congress didn't know about it, but that's not valid because the president has the authority to use military force when he sees fit. He doesn't have to broadcast it to Congress. That's a given. So there's no ground there that it's constitutionally... I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, I watched a clip with Tulsi Gabbard. She said it is an act of war and Trump needs to go to Congress to get that authorization for war. I don't agree with that. I think that Trump is always, the president of the United States is always within his rights to use military force, and that's the president that the people of this nation picked to do the job. So there's no ground there. So let's see how it plays out. My hope is that young people stop joining the military, that if you're in the military, walk away. Don't sign up. And you bring the military-industrial complex to its knees. They can't do what they're doing. The corporations can't continue to exploit foreign nations without boots on the ground, without young Americans sacrificing their lives for their profit. So if young America sees that and decides that they're not going to participate, then it's game over. Marcus Conte reporting.